Just thinking as you're talking, Linda, that as we go through this pandemic era and this new transition of people going from one job to another, this great resignation period that we're in, what do you think the workplace of the future is going to look like? You know, because you're talking about family orientation, almost like the whole person is going to be embraced, not just the part that is about getting work done. Where do you see companies, cultures at work, say 5 years out?
You know, I think we started off, you know, a gazillion years ago with this, people stayed at companies forever. You know, they went and they retired 30 or 40 years later and got their proverbial gold watch. People don't care about that anymore. And by the way, you're not even rewarded for staying in a company that long. In fact, it's a negative rather than a positive to future employers, right? And I think that people, generations behind me are looking for more, I hate the word work-life balance because I don't think there is such a thing, but I think they're looking for the ability to manage their lives in a way that works for them, whatever that means to them. So that, you know, we have a lot of families where we have two working people in the family, and navigating daycare and school and extracurricular activities is important to people. And both male and female, and being able to do that. So I think companies that are respectful and understand what people need, that's more than just an interesting job that compensates well, will be ones that we'll see standing out, and more so than that more rigid.
Can we create that environment that you just described, whether you call it some sort of work-life balance, and I get the phrase doesn't seem to fit what you're talking about, where this whole person gets to show up, we're really paying attention to what's happening at work and also at home, we're embracing the whole person. Can we do that at the same time have this perspective that companies need to grow, companies need to have increased productivity numbers, all the things that, you know, Wall Street and venture capitalists and all that are looking for? Because when you have public companies, they often set the tone for even the rest of the culture with all the other companies who may not be public, right?
Yeah.
And so we sort of see the permeation of those values around increased sales, increased productivity. Can we have both, or are we going to start looking at measuring different things in the future that we may not be now?
Okay, so I think you can have both. Let me give you an example. Last fall, I got contacted by a company who had been referred to me that said, we're having communication problems, we're having some other issues, come in. And so when I met with them, what they asked me to do was do interviews with what turned out to be about 40 people in their company. They have about, I don't know, 350 people. And they picked the 40 people they wanted me to talk to. And I physically interviewed every one of those people. And this is a company I was crying literally in some of these meetings with their employees because of the things that they told me, such as, you know, my father and I were estranged a year ago. We got back together. Then my father died, and they knew he was destitute, and they came and said, we're going to pay for his funeral. Here's $10,000. Or the guy that would say to me that his father had cancer, and the company said, go take care of your father. It looks like he's got 3 months left. We're just going to pay you. And, you know, for that time, go take care of your family. Or the guy that came to me and said that his family, for a variety of reasons, hadn't been able to take a vacation. And so the company came and said, go to one of the owner's vacation homes, and just, here's the boat, here's the keys to the house, here's the whatever, go take your family for a week and we'll just take care of everything. And the list just goes on. There wasn't a person that I met of those 35 that weren't owners, et cetera, who didn't have some story to tell me about what these owners did for them. Nobody asked. Nobody said, can I have? They just came. The company is incredibly profitable. They're well paid. I mean, everybody gets well paid. And we're working on some areas still. So we still have some communication challenges. It's not perfect, but I just recently went and talked to all those same 40 people, which were 6 months into this. How are you feeling now? And I heard comments like, I don't really want to say anything bad because I feel disloyal about saying anything because they treat us so well. So people and profits can go together. They don't have to be siloed or one or the other.
Well, I think
and they're a classic example of that.
It's a great story. Wonderful for sharing that. That's really encouraging. And the amount of money it takes an organization to rehire people. If we've got around 50% of the population in companies right now looking to move to another one, that means that's a lot of onboarding costs associated with each time a person bounces to another organization. That's extremely draining on an organization's bottom line. And what I hear you say, and I do believe that you're right, that we can actually be profitable at the same time, be focused on our employees. They are not mutually exclusive. I do wonder, though, it seems like in some ways that there was a separation between social services, quote unquote, and companies that ran and did stuff, right? Now they're kind of coming together. Now the businesses are becoming a place of social service delivery in a way that you just described. That it didn't occur to me until just now when you said that it's like the role of the company is becoming much more broad than it was in the past. Do you agree or not?
I think in some companies, the answer is yes. I think the challenge is that people by nature, I don't think, are generous of spirit. And we come from a scarcity mentality.
Yeah.
Many of us, right? And so if we get some money, we're a business owner or we're moving up the ranks, we go, ooh, I got to protect this. And protect it means I don't give as much. I don't give as much financially. I don't think about people. And so we always kind of shrink in instead of expand. Those and Wall Street, I think, has given us this indication that people and profit can't go together. And so we have to focus on profit. And if that means at the expense of people, well, that's the way it goes. I can remember starting my career in manufacturing, and I was running a quality control department for a food manufacturing firm in Atlanta. And I went in to ask the owner of the company for a raise for some of our production guys that were doing 500-gallon vats of product that if we dumped it down the drain because the emulsion didn't form or something didn't work, we were losing thousands of dollars. And I'd go in and ask for a 25-cent an hour raise, and he would cut it to 10 cents. And he would say to me, if they don't want to work for blah, blah, blah company, we'll find somebody else that does. And so, I could never get him to understand there was sort of a cost benefit analysis that I could never seem to get him to think about, which is we're talking 15 cents an hour for you versus what it costs to dump this down the drain when that doesn't work well. But he felt like he probably had this group of people that weren't going to go anywhere else. They didn't have skills to do anything else. So so what? But I think lots of companies feel that way, and even with educated, multi-degree people, they just feel like there's this plethora of people that just go out in their backyard and somebody else will show up. And
Right.
they don't realize that not only is that not true, but even if it is, there's still a huge cost to the time to rehire. Either way, you're probably going to have to pay more.
Yep.
All the costs that go into this that are measurable, not even the costs that are less measurable, such as, employee dissatisfaction and the gossip that goes on in the background. Gee, well, 3 people have left. Maybe there's something they know that I don't know. So
Yeah. Well, it definitely sounds like the days of, if they don't like it, they can go somewhere else, we can find somebody else, are gone, at least for now, because if stats are true, somewhere around half of every company, every company, half of their employees are looking for something else. If that's even close to true, right? So we can no longer just say, well, we can always find somebody else, because it's so difficult to find other people. Right now, I know of organizations that have 13, 15, 3,000 open recs right now, and they can't get these positions filled.
Yep.
And so it's really, really the biggest issue, aside from dealing with returning back to work and COVID and so forth. I want to shift gears a little bit, if I could, because I know that you have a really strong background in communication and so forth. Imagine another scenario, CEO of a fast-paced tech company, really sales-oriented, right? Getting the deal, has a culture of, we want to support people. We want to be able to engage people. We want to make sure there's inclusion, right? All of that's really a strong value. However, the CEO bristles at the opportunity to provide crucial conversations to his or her leadership team. How do you help a CEO become better at developing tough messages when they obviously have a hard time with that?
Everybody has a hard time with
Yeah,
that.
right. But some more than others, right?
But certainly some more than others.
Some people really, like, they say one thing, we value crucial conversations, but when it comes down to it, I do not do this very well. How do you help somebody do that when it's obviously congruent with their values?
Well, the first thing we have to just find out is what's preventing them from having those conversations. So it could be something as simple as, I don't have the tools. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to approach the conversation. If that's it, the challenge, then that's a different starting point than if somebody is in a mindset of, I know it's going to go poorly, and so I don't want to have it. Or I know I'm going to 6 weeks from now have the same conversation, so why bother? So it has to start with, where are they from a mindset? So is it skills-based tools that can help them, or do we need to really shift their thinking around it? And if we assume that, and it usually starts with me helping them shift from, this is a confrontation, to this is just a conversation.
Oh, quotable quote, Linda.
So as soon as we think it's going to be a confrontation, it will be.
Yeah.
We enter into it differently. Our words that we use are different. We tighten up. We rush through it. We don't listen. If we go into it saying this is a conversation, we approach it differently. We're less judgmental. We open up listening. We're going to have questions, and they probably still need some of the tools, because something's going to happen in there, but it starts usually with helping them shift their thinking.
I find that, I'm sure you do too, that with the fact that we've been spending so much time on Zoom calls and WebEx and so forth, Teams, that the not having that personal interaction and the separateness, the lack of relatedness that's been going on over the last 18 months or so has, I think, increased people's aversion to delivering tough news, that they now are interpreting that as something to avoid, or something that, to your point, is confrontation versus a conversation. And it's like we've lost ground in some ways because of the disconnection we're out of practice. We haven't been at the gym for a long time, right? We're feeling a little, flabby, if you will, when it comes to having these tough conversations that we were never really good at in the first place, right?
Yeah.
But now we've gotten a little worse. I think your point's well taken. We need to really shift this perspective around this is a conversation, which doesn't mean that I'm still not going to give you the kind of accountability that is needed, but I'm going to approach it from a different mindset. Another question here. You've been in coaching for a long time, right? You and I met in a coaching conference, and we've had some great conversations in the past. Given all that's been going on, COVID, the great resignation, the fast ascent of AI into our world, what's the role of coaching in the future? What trends do you see happening? Because, we've been around those small breakout groups, and all of us are like, we've been around a long time, right? We're 50-year-old plus, ancient trees talking about stuff that is basically from our perspective of years of doing this, but I don't know whether we always have a view for the future. What's the future of coaching?
I think people need coaching more now than ever. I think that people in organizations are freaking miserable. And if there's anything that I want to do, I can't make people happy. I mean, nobody can make somebody else happy, but I can help organizations see what they are doing inadvertently lots of times that make people unhappy. Or so little things matter. And I said that earlier. So, and it isn't just about, remembering Johnny's softball game and whatever. But I think that if we look at what goes on in the world, the natural disasters, the political scenes, all of these things just are COVID picket, right? Make life tough, just tough. And people come into organizations almost looking to escape all of those other things in their life. And so but they come in and they're not happy at work either. And we shut them out. We dismiss them. We tell them they're wrong. We judge them. We don't listen. And, my belief is that the greatest human need we have is really not to be heard, but to be understood.
Well done.
And so if we start to pay attention to understanding people, it changes things, not just incrementally, but in wild, crazy ways. And so I think that has to start with coaching.
Yeah, my cheers to you on that last comment about the need to be understood.